I always say, when you know more, you do more. And when you know better, you do better.
Welcome to the Mortgage Mum podcast with me, Sarah Tucker, founder of The Mortgage Mum, where we believe mortgages are about more than just money. Join us every week where we will share with you bite-sized tips, interviews with inspiring people inside and outside of our industry, and tools to help you achieve balance in every area of your life. And a very warm welcome to today's episode of the Mortgage Mum podcast, where we are joined by a new co-host today. Slightly different because we're co-hosting and I'm interviewing Sally. Sally Mitchell. Now, if you haven't heard of Sally, you need to. She is the most incredible force of energy. She is on the Mortgage Mum team, one of our mortgage brokers, and based in Dunmow in Essex in the countryside in her beautiful home, very beautiful garden. And she is just fantastic energy-wise to be around. Sally is the founder of Sally's View, and you can find that on her YouTube channel. It is hilarious and so refreshing. We are all massive fans of it. She's got the type of voice that you could definitely fall asleep to. I definitely think Headspace or Calm need to snap her up at some point for some storytelling. But she is an incredible woman who we're very, very lucky to have on the team. She's got an incredible diverse background in recruitment and property development and art and fashion. And she's always had a keen interest in property. She's renovated and refurbished her own homes, and she's lived in the UK, Spain and the US. The story of how we found each other, we talk about on this podcast episode. We talk also, importantly, about budget planning or spending planning for our clients. And this is a great episode for you guys just before we head into 2022 or any new year, but there's really no better time to start than tomorrow. But if you are entering a new year, it's a great refreshing time to reset the finances and go into the new year with some new habits. So we're going to talk to you about how you can really effectively budget plan or spend plan for the year ahead for you and your family, the different things you need to take into account when you're thinking about getting a new mortgage. And we're going to talk really openly and honestly about life as a mortgage broker behind the scenes a little bit. We could have talked endlessly. Sally and I do both love to talk. So this episode could have easily been 2 hours long. But we did keep it under an hour. It's going to be really informative. It's going to have you giggling. And I'm sure it's going to have you falling in love with Sally just like we have. So grab yourself a cuppa and enjoy. So thank you so much, Sally. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm excited.
Yeah, this is like long overdue because everybody needs to hear more of Sally's voice.
You're very kind.
If you haven't watched Sally's View, I'll be talking about that later. So, Sally Mitchell, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Oh, goodness. Where to start? I'm a little bit older than your average mortgage mum. I've had quite a varied career, from recruitment and fashion buying, a gallerist buying art. I've lived in America. I lived in Spain. Don't interrupt. I know you didn't know this, did you?
No. This is going to be an education.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things I've done. I've fitted in having 2 children. I've been a wife. Didn't go so well. I'm obviously a mum, daughter, friend, all those things. And now, at my grand old age, I'm a mortgage broker. And I did not see it coming.
You did not see it coming?
Nope. It's just one of those things that happened.
And how and when did that moment happen for you?
Well, I blame my brother. And I think very similar to a lot of the brokers, that there's been a sort of, I don't know, a converging of opportunity and a little bit of fate and perhaps serendipity that brought me to Sarah. And my brother is in the financial publishing arena. And I was saying to him, my children were getting older, they were going to university, and I really needed a proper job. I'd done galleries, I'd done fashion buying, I'd done bits and pieces sort of part-time, but they were leaving the nest. And I thought, it's my time to do something for me that I will be able to fit around, still family commitments, living in the country, which I love. I didn't want to do a commute. But something that I could carry on and on until, for another 15, 20 years. I think I've got 20, 25 years of work still in me. And something that would really, give me a bit of a sort of a buzz. Years ago, I was in recruitment and I loved helping people, but I also loved the sales side of it and the getting a deal done.
Yeah.
And it's probably not really the sort of thing that maybe you want a broker to say, but I think that drive is really important because it's what makes you get the deal over the line for your client. I think you've got to care, but you've got to have that slight hunger and sort of competitive edge.
Absolutely.
And that's where I get my buzz. That's why I love it. So I was probably moaning to my brother, my poor long-suffering brother, saying, I live in the country, I'm really old, I haven't worked properly for 20 years, so who's going to want me, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you should be a mortgage broker. I said, where's that come from? He said, think of it, it's perfect. It's you're quite savvy, you like a deal, the chase of the deal. You love helping people. You like to talk. Can you tell?
No.
Never stop. And it just so happened that his publication had run a feature on Sarah and the mortgage mum. I'm talking to my audience. I should be talking to you, Sarah. Sorry. I'm talking to the audience.
No, I talk to the audience too, so you're all good.
Sorry. So this is what happened. And he said, I'm going to send it to you. Have a look. I think it's a really good fit. Years ago, I worked in a company that was 99.9% women. So I actually quite like that vibe. I love that sort of the team, the sort of support, everything that you get from working with really, really special women. So I was quite excited. Read the article, thought, ooh, this could be for me. So I phoned up, bold as brass, and said, I'm really interested in becoming a mortgage broker. And I really thought, because this is the way my mind works, if I want something, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I thought they're going to say either yes or no. And the lady I spoke to, Alison, was incredibly helpful and supportive. But she did point out, just as I was almost sort of, saying, when do I start? That I would have to actually qualify to be a broker first. Oh, how long does that take then? Well, sort of 6 months, a year, depending if you want to do it quickly. You can do a fast track, but it's studying and 3 exams. 3 exams? Oh, this is a person who hasn't done an exam for a very, very long time. And, wasn't sure. Anyway, she gave me the confidence to sort of pursue it a bit more. So I got my CMAP books. And I studied, and then I discovered Paul Archer. Shout out to Paul Archer.
Yes, lovely Paul Archer.
Oh, lovely Paul Archer, who does a boot camp for mortgage brokers. And it was so helpful. It was collaborative. It was informative. It was fun. It was broken down into bite-sized pieces. It was just brilliant. Got qualified. And luckily, there was a spot for me at the Mortgage Mum. So I started just over a year ago.
Amazing.
So it's all very new.
It feels like you've been doing this so much longer, Sally, I have to say. It feels like I've been working with you for longer than a year, but it is, almost a year to the day, isn't it?
I think I started in October.
Started broking in November.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, in the Magic 7, as we called you.
Yeah, the Magic 7, which was rather
nice. But it's gone so quick. But you feel like you've been doing this a long time. I think you've landed where you were meant to land.
I think so. It's just everything just came together. It's weird. It's serendipity.
And has your brother gloated about this at any point?
Yes. He thinks that he is
he is your God.
He deserves a fee.
Oh wow.
But I have done his mortgage.
Oh, that's good.
There you go. So I didn't charge him.
Oh, there you go. He's paid back in
exactly
non-broker fee.
No broker fee for him. I couldn't, because he found me this spot. So that was lovely.
I think that's so inspiring as a story. And I'm sure there's so many listeners that are going to be listening to this and thinking, well, maybe I could, and whether it's mortgage broking or anything, maybe I could. And I think that's part of why I really wanted to share that, is because it doesn't matter what stage of life you're at, right? You can always choose again.
Yeah, exactly, which is lovely. I mean, I looked at my sort of life unfolding after spending so many years bringing up children, and I thought, well, it's sort of, is that it? What's the next chapter? I've got so much that I can give, and so much that I want to really achieve. Just that feeling of self-worth.
Yeah,
you've done a good job, and almost like an honest day's work.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's good for the soul. It
Which
really
is so
good
lovely.
For the soul. Mm.
So what has been, if you can pick any moment as a broker, what has been a favourite moment of yours?
Oh, okay. That just completely off the cuff. And whenever anyone says that, I always think, no, it's been prepared, but this really is off the cuff.
Yes.
So a lovely client, because there are so many good moments, but I've got a couple of clients at the moment who they stress. They're not first-time buyers. They're not young. They've been around the block. They've done this before, but they just get terribly stressed. Yeah. And they end up having a bit of a go at each other. And the other day, the husband phoned me and said, we're in a right state. We're in a right state. You've got to help us. You've got to help us. I don't know what's going on. What's going on? We just don't know what's happening. I said, just calm, cool your heels. And they're bickering on the other end of the phone. He's saying, I'm talking to her. And you can hear her in the background doing this. And they were really they were vibrating at a very high frequency, shall we say. So I just found it absolutely hilarious, because they were stressing over absolutely nothing. But I just said, just calm down. Tell me about it. And in 2 minutes, he was laughing. And he said, honestly, you should be a marriage guidance counsellor as well as a mortgage broker, because I phone you in the most horrendous state, and within literally 5 minutes, you've got me laughing, and we're all lovey-dovey again. Thank you, because I think I would have killed her if you hadn't come on the phone.
That is the Sally effect, though. I mean, I haven't laughed this much in ages, especially on a podcast interview. I feel like I'm just giggling, basically, my way through it.
It's just so funny. I mean, just things like that happen. I don't know whether it's just me, but things like that seem to happen really very regularly.
But you do see the funny
it's just so funny. Because it wasn't a major disaster. If it had been something awful, then I wouldn't have laughed. But they just needed someone to vent against and to sort of pass it over. And I think that's what we do as brokers. A lot of the time, we are not an emotional punch bag, but we take the stress away from the client.
Yes, that's our whole job as far as I'm concerned.
And I think that's a really important part of the job.
Definitely.
You build them up, you talk them down off that ledge.
Yeah. Yeah. And hold their hand through the process virtually.
And that's just one example. There's been, oh my gosh, I could fill a whole series with funny things that have happened.
Well, I'm looking forward to more. And if you don't already, those who are listening, Sally does something called Sally's View, which I think she's sick of me talking about, because I must say it every
I like it.
to her. But I love it. And it's little videos, and they're all sorts of different topics, sometimes about mortgages, sometimes not. But the most recent one was a funny story happened, and I shouldn't have thought about it, because there's probably I'm going to now laugh and not be able to stop. But I won't make you tell the story, because people need to go and watch it, although you are welcome to tell it. But it made me laugh so much. And I had a particularly difficult day that day, and it gave me so much relief. It was lovely. So if you are giggling at the moment, go and have a look, because it's well worth 3 minutes of your time, and there's plenty more where that came from. I've got them on notifications now, so I get told when they come through so that I don't miss them. So, Sally, what I want to talk about today, and obviously I would talk to you just about you all day long, but one thing I think that you particularly have managed to do really effectively and really well is, like you've just said, you really, you have those difficult conversations with your clients, but you know how to wrap it around serious information, and you know how to keep it light, but also give them the right advice. And that sometimes that's being the firm voice when it comes to things like budget planning or spending planning, as we like to call it, because the mindset, spending planning sounds better. Budget makes you automatically feel restricted before you've even started. So I thought we could talk about that today, because I know it's something, one of your topics that you do always sort of dive into, particularly with first-time buyers, but really with anyone that's looking to buy a property needs to be thinking about this. So, spending plans. Talk to me. Yes. Tell me how you frame this with a client and what our listeners need to be thinking about.
I always think that the whole mortgage process is there's two sections. There's obviously trying to borrow enough money to buy the house that you want or the flat that you want, the property you want. But it's really, really important to try and work out whether you can actually afford what you want. And they go hand in hand. And I think sometimes we forget that that's a really, really important part, that affordability. And that's our job to try and assess that affordability. And the easiest way to do that is through a spending planner or budget planner. So I dive quite deep into it because I always say, especially to first-time buyers, don't get carried away with the dream. The dream is you're in this beautiful home that you've moved out from your parents or whatever is holding you back, and you're there. But if you're there with a candle and a can of cold beans, because that's all you can afford, it's I don't want that picture. No. I don't want it. I don't want that phone call. What have you done? Well, you said you wanted a house for £250,000. There you go. No.
Yeah. No. I actually want to live.
Yeah, there's a quality of life that's important. And if you talk to anybody about their spending patterns or their budget, they normally really underestimate what they spend, what life costs. It's not always that they're being flippant with money at all. It's just life costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really important start, because there's no point getting a big loan if you can't afford it with your lifestyle. It's just going to make you miserable. It's not good brokering. It's not responsible lending. And it's my job to make sure that the balance, it's all balance. It's really important.
So important. So where do people start? Because I think there's probably some people who are listening who are used to that and who probably, like myself, keep a spreadsheet or something where they record all of their bits and pieces, all their bills. But if you're a first-time buyer, I remember having no idea, like sitting in a cafe with my mum and dad and saying, okay, cool. So where do I start? Obviously I'm going to need money for food and Sky. That's all I remember thinking I needed. But I quickly found out about council tax.
I wouldn't say that that's essential.
Oh, it felt essential, Sally. As a first-time buyer, I was like, no, I have to have Sky.
And this is where the education, and I think part of our role is education as well.
Absolutely.
Because we are meant to be the experts. I don't expect anyone coming to me to know this stuff. No, I really don't. And there's no shame in not knowing it. And I think that's really, really important. So I would start with what's your committed expenditure, things that you have to pay, things that if you don't pay, someone will come after you. Okay. So that's loans and credit cards, and overdraft if you've got one.
Council tax,
exactly. And really important, and I try and get this into the first-time buyers, certainly, because they're not used to it. You've got to think of yourself sitting in your new home and what bills are coming in.
Yeah.
And when you haven't had that experience, when mum and dad have paid council tax, or it's all been wrapped up being a tenant, then you have no idea, what electric is going to cost or what the gas is going to cost in your council tax. So suddenly you've got all these extra expenses. coming out of your salary that you've never had to budget, I can use that word, budget for before. So I use an actual planner where all this is set out. And I'm very happy to help the first-time buyers research, what's the average electric bill for a 2-bedroom house, go on the council website and work out their council tax, what it's going to be. Because again, they don't know, and they shouldn't know.
No.
So it's really important to do the budgeting or the spending based on what you're going to be paying out in your new home. That's I think the first thing that's really important, which people think they've got loads of disposable income. Once those bills come in, you haven't.
No.
You really haven't.
So you start with a committed and then you move on to
what I'd call essential expenditure.
Okay.
So keeping the roof over your head. So food, probably include all the utilities in that as well.
Yeah.
The light, the heat, the power, your car. Can you put gas in it? Gas. God, I sound American.
We do have American listeners. It's fine.
I'm thinking of hydrogen gas. It's because all this COP, I've got COP26 or whatever it's called in my head.
Petrol and gas.
Petrol or diesel.
Yes.
No more diesel after 2030. No. So gas in your tank, and your insurance. That's important if you're going to have a car. I mean, obviously you can give up your car, but a lot of people can't cope. How do you get to work if you don't have a car? Train fares, season tickets, parking, big ones, parking. These are things that you need to pay out. They're not going to change. So that's really, really important. Also, a really weird one I had was things, pets. If you have a pet and you insure them, that is not committed. You could choose not to insure them, but it's fairly essential.
Yeah.
Have that. So you've got to think in terms of that. And if you've got a really expensive hobby. So I had a client who raced cars, glorified go-karts really, but it cost him a certain amount of money and he'd missed it completely off the planner.
Wow.
Until, I said, well, who pays for the running of your sort of very, very small team? Race team. And he said, oh, well, that's sort of separate. Well, unless you've got a sponsor, it's not separate. It needs to be figured into it. Other people, because I live in the country, got clients who've got horses, really expensive animals to keep. You've got to put the farrier bill, the vet bill, the vaccinations, all that sort of stuff into it because it costs money. So it's as individual and as bespoke as the client. It's not one size fits all. And that's one thing I've really learned. And what I love about this job is that it's never just, box tick.
No.
It's just not like that.
Everyone's different.
Everyone is different. And you've really got to take the time to find out about that client and their life and their, I don't want to use the word journey, but, where they are in their life and where they're going as well, what they're going to be doing and look into the future as to what might change in their expenditure.
Yeah.
Not only are they going to get a promotion at work, perhaps, and earn more money, what are their plans? What do they want to do? Are they going to have children? Is one of them pregnant? Is there going to be childcare? What happens to their job if they're off on maternity leave? How will that affect their income? And therefore, if they've still got the same expenditure going out, it's going to affect their affordability.
Absolutely.
There's so much to it.
There is. And then when you go past the essential, you come on to the, I don't know, luxury or choice or whatever you would call that. Different brokers call it different things.
I think that's where the sort of the cherry on top of your life is. That's the fun bits, isn't it? It's the going out, it's the Cineworld pass, it's the weekends away, it's the dinners. And that really makes a difference to life. So it can't be underestimated and it shouldn't be ignored. I've had people say, well, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. No, you don't. But are you going to be happy?
Yeah.
Again, sitting around that can of beans with a candle, it's not an attractive picture. So you've got to be realistic and not too sackcloth and ashes about it.
No, and I think it's important, like you say, you judge it by different people because some people, I don't know if you've had any clients like this, Sally, but some people are the other end with it, so conservative that you almost have to, free them up a little bit, and make them feel a little bit more comfortable about taking on the debt, for example. But certainly majority, I think it's fair to say it's the other way round, where we get blinkered, don't we? We see what we want. We've followed the home accounts on Instagram. We've Pinterested. We can see it. Like, you've gone into the house. This is exactly what I want, this particular house. And I remember it vividly thinking, I won't care if I don't have Netflix, if I get the house. I won't care if I can't go out for dinner, because I'll just want to stay in my new house every day anyway. As we've spoke about off air, and I've mentioned it somewhere, potentially on the podcast, potentially not. I did that to get to Leon C. I'm sure I've mentioned it on the podcast, so I'm not going to go into it. But I've had that conversation. I remember sitting with pen to paper thinking, okay, well, yeah, we only have £200 a month left for food and petrol and going out. But that's fine. Like, it's only two of us and it's fine. We can definitely make that work. And it was really difficult. And I don't regret it, but I would have preferred to have had that pointed out, which probably my parents did, or someone probably did.
Exactly. But, do you listen?
Yeah. But a mortgage broker, that is somebody that I would like to think you would listen to. Otherwise, what's really the point?
Exactly. Use the expert advice. It's really important, I think. And I can be quite, I don't know whether it's because I am a mum. I can be quite, come on now, let's get serious. Let's really think about this. It's your choice at the end of the day. You can do what you like. I'm not telling you how to live, but I'm just pointing out
that this is what it looks like.
This is potentially what could happen. And if you're happy with that, fine.
Yeah.
But it's important.
And how does that go down? Are your clients grateful for that?
I haven't had any complaints.
You certainly haven't. You've had glowing reviews, but I wondered if
I think so. I think it's, and I know you've spoken about it before. I do think of our role as being slightly, as educators. It's really important to have these slightly uncomfortable conversations. We have a funny reaction to talking about money. I don't know whether it's just in this country or whether it's generational. Actually, I think the younger generation are better. They're a bit more open, but certainly, I remember my parents. You don't talk about what religion, sex, or politics. Well, you don't talk about money either.
No.
I remember people being very cagey about what they earn.
Yeah.
About bonuses, about what they spend. It's a very emotive and almost there's an element of shame around it, which I find weird, but it's there, definitely there. So I think once you start talking about it and it becomes normal, people open up and they're actually quite grateful because it's a brilliant exercise. And I always say, even if you don't go ahead and get a mortgage immediately because you haven't found the right property or circumstances change, it's a really good exercise to do. If you just have to sort of take a deep breath and go, right, I'm gonna go into it and I'm gonna look, because it's there. It's not as if you're manifesting it out of nowhere. It's always there in the background. It's reality. And if you don't face it, it's just going to trip you up potentially further down the road.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's,
yes, absolutely.
I think but it is difficult to do. That's why if you're holding their hand metaphorically and guiding them through it in a very ordered, quite clear, quite unemotional way, factual, then it's easier to get their heads around it and accept the findings. And I have had couples bickering. I seem to get lots of bickering couples, don't I? Saying, well, our Deliveroo's through the roof. Well, that's you. Okay, guys, it's not really important.
Yeah.
Who's got the Deliveroo habit? It's just important to be aware and to sort of accept that is the situation. And then you can change. I always say, when you know more, you do more. And when you know better, you do better.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, love that.
I'm sure that will end up being the starting quote of the series, of the
episode.
When
you know better, you do better. So there's nothing to be frightened of.
No, I love that.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
Something you said, other than that statement, which I just think is so true, is about for whatever reason, there's a lot of shame attached to money. And something that came up that I just wrote down is it almost we've subconsciously attached it to our identities.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And what I loved actually at the beginning is when I asked who Sally Mitchell is, you didn't tell me what you did touch on what you've done as a career. But what we all tend to do, right, is say, I am this, I do this. But we don't then go on to say who we are outside of that, because we wrap our identity up in money and what we do. So that just sprung in my head and gave me a little light bulb moment as you were talking. So I had to share that. But yes, and couples arguing, 100%. Money, I think, is one of the main reasons people argue.
Yeah, I agree.
It just is. And I think especially when it comes to spending, especially because we all spend money and you are sometimes you're cross with yourself, but it's so much easier when you're cross with yourself to look at the person next to you. Well, it's probably you, or those habits that you kind of live with. You know, you end up getting annoyed when it affects your mortgage application potentially. Yeah.
It's never that. I haven't had these sort of nuclear moments.
No,
it's been
over a delivery, hopefully not.
Little bit, exactly, but little bit of, perhaps potentially a little bit of resentment.
Yeah,
comes through, and it's I don't know. There's money equals power, so there's maybe balance of power issues with the money and how the money's allocated. Who earns more? It's a very tricky thing to sort of navigate, to get it right, because you don't want to stir up a whole hornet's nest.
No.
I want them to leave my Zoom call feeling really good.
Feeling great. And also your own parents, how your parents are with money is obviously how you are built to be around money until you potentially decide to change those habits or at least be aware of them. Yeah. So that for first-time buyers, particularly if you're a couple, that happens. You suddenly are faced with, you don't argue about this stuff because you don't have to, but all of a sudden you have different opinions.
Absolutely.
I should have a rainy day fund. No, you don't need a rainy day fund.
Yeah. Live for the moment.
Yeah.
Don't worry about something that hasn't happened.
Yeah. And so you have, I remember with John, like my husband, don't even think I've said his name before on here, but I remember because he was quite, and still is, more conservative with money. And I came from very much that environment with my mum and dad, like, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, enjoy today. So but over the years, we've blended the two into something really great. But at the beginning, you just think you're right. And where you come from is what you know. And like you just quite rightly said, you only know what you know before you can do better. Yeah. So where can people start? Obviously, we can give out this budget planner, can't we, after today? Yes. People are listening and thinking, I want this, I want to do it.
It's a really good tool, And I don't know if anyone else has it, but I know you've been doing your financial spreadsheet for the last year, is it?
Yes.
And I had with my, I can't remember who it was now, but I had a credit card and I put everything, and I always paid off in full, Martin Lewis. Every month. Just a quick shout out to Martin. But at the end of the year, they would give me, and they probably don't even do it anymore, but they would give me a breakdown of and headings of what I'd spent under each heading. It was amazing.
Which credit card is this? That sounds amazing.
I think it might have even been like American Express, which is not everybody's credit card.
That sounds very good though.
It was really good and quite alarming.
Yes.
Really alarming. And it made me think, ooh, when I say I haven't got enough money, I know why now.
Yeah.
We need to rein this in. I mean, this was when I was actually, fashion buying, so this is hilarious. Well, I think it's hilarious. So I worked at this lovely boutique, and I went fashion buying twice a year. We went to London Fashion Week. We ended up in Paris.
Wow.
It was lovely. But of course, the upshot was this little job that I was meant to have to supplement funds when I was bringing up the children. I ended up owing money.
I'm not surprised.
To the shop.
Yeah.
And so literally I would get a negative pay slip. It'd be my pay. And then there'd be all the things that I'd bought. And I'd end up working for free.
Oh my God.
That's how sad it was.
With just really nice clothes.
Really nice clothes. I was the best dressed poor person.
Oh my God.
in the village. So
you can so see how that would happen though.
Oh, it's so easy because it's a bargain. Everything's bargain. So I'm buying it all at cost. It's a bargain.
But it's still designer bargain, which is basically still triple the price at least.
We all need 12 pairs of jeans, don't we? In different shades of blue.
We absolutely do.
So I know how it can happen.
Yeah.
So I think your program of writing it all down yourself is incredibly disciplined, but actually really, really good.
Yes, I'm going to talk about that because I think going into the new year, I think it's a really good time to do it if you haven't done this already. Now, this time last year, I've always done the money in our house. I don't know how other households work, but I've always been the one that does the money. And John says to me, how's it looking when I do our money? And I go, yeah, it's fine.
It's all right.
It's fine. And he's like, how much did we spend this month? And I tell him, and he'd go, seriously, that sounds a lot. And I'm like, I know. Yeah. I don't know on what. I don't know why. I mean, we had so-and-so's birthday, but we didn't spend a lot on that. And I don't know why. We haven't paid for a holiday or anything. I'm not sure. It's just, it must just be bits and pieces. And so we went into the new year thinking, we can't just keep saying bits and pieces because I want to know what they are. Yeah, and if we don't know what they are, how can we change it?
That's not a category on my budget plan.
No, it's not. Bits and pieces. Yeah. Bits and pieces. Just tuck it under that. So what I started, I elaborated my existing spreadsheet. It's basically got a list of all my bills. It's got a list of the income. So that's the starting balance. I know what it should be. And then this is the discipline bit. I write down everything. So it goes on a credit card. We pay it off in full. I write down everything. I don't do it every week. It's probably every 2 weeks. And it's like a little moment. I make it very nice. I get under a blanket. I'll make sure I'm really cozy and comfy so that I'm in a good headspace to sit and do it with something on telly. And it's like a little job of mine. I quite enjoy it actually now. And I'll list everything. And then this does sound a bit anal, but I then will categorize that so it's color coded. So there's food, there's going out, eating out, socializing, treating the kids clothes, kids clubs, a lot of kids, birthdays and gifts, and there's various other categories. But essentially it comes into those categories. And then I summarize it so I can see what we thought we'd spend versus what we did at the end of the month. And we've got to a great place with food. I know exactly what we spend every month and it's always the same pretty much. But it's really interesting to see the categories that we do overspend, if you like, or spend more than I thought we would. To me, that's gifts. And and kids' treats. So I can then identify a pattern with my spending, which is I like to spend on other people. Okay, so I can dive into that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
Don't stop, Sarah. Don't stop.
No. So unlucky everyone. That's Christmas 2021. No, but I can go. Okay, I'm not going to change it yet. I just want to observe it for the year. Yeah. And see what happens across the year. And I'm really looking forward to analysing it all. But I can dive into that. And really, if I want to change it, I can ask myself, okay, why do you do that? Is that coming from the right place? Do you feel like if you stopped doing that, that would impact your relationships? And the truth is I would think, oh, that's going to impact my friendships. They're going to feel X. And that's when you start to really notice some psychology behind your money patterns. Now, that's a year-long experiment, but it's a year will go by whether you do it or not. So you might as well do it.
Absolutely. It's always there in the background. It's just
always
there, like a sleeping dragon.
Yeah.
Waiting to spit.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. And I definitely am so looking forward to analysing it, but I definitely feel like it's improved across the year as well, just because I've just become more aware and I'm okay with certain things and I'm, questioning others. So I would definitely recommend that to anybody that is thinking, oh, I want to dive into this. I want to do more. But for some, they'll listen to me and go, oh, stuff that I cannot be bothered to create a spreadsheet.
No, I know. I do get it. But you've got to think about God, it sounds so boring, but this is the broker coming out of me. It's the mortgage person. But if you think of yourself and your home, so your family, your home, what you spend your money on, think of it as a business.
Oh, yes, like this.
And you wouldn't just go, la, 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 with the business. No one can see me doing that. I'm putting my hands over my eyes. La, la, la,
la, la, la.
I'm not paying any attention. I'm not looking at the work that's coming in or the invoicing. I'm just, I'll have that piece of machinery. What the hell? It doesn't matter. You wouldn't run a business like that.
No.
And at the end of every year, you would be accountable through your accounts for, what you had done, and also your how you behaved, your
performance. Yeah,
exactly. Sorry, that's it. That's the word, performance.
Yeah,
I was not thinking about that. So it's someone would hold you accountable, either your shareholders or your employees, because if you mess it up, they don't get paid or they lose their jobs.
Yes.
So if you can think of it, not sort of, I'm a bad person, I spend too much money. If I look at it, I just know I'm going to feel really dreadful about myself. Think of it as a bit colder than that, a bit more like it's a business.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that it's a healthy business. It can be any type of business.
Mm-hmm.
It can be in the service thing. It can be investment. It can be whatever you want it to be. It could be, you could pretend you're Amazon. It doesn't matter. But it's got to work.
Definitely. And it's really good collaborative thing to do, because it actually brings you together in a healthy way to talk about money and open up that conversation with each other and become aware together. So it's a great exercise if there's two of you in the household to share those patterns and behaviours and hold each other accountable.
If you start bickering, just phone me and I'll
and then once you argue over the spreadsheet, just ring Sally for the counselling on the side. Couples counselling, mortgage broker, presenter on Sally's View. She does it all.
Everything.
And I'm assuming you must still know a little bit about fashion as well, Sally. So, now I know this. Art and fashion advice also coming to you.
Yeah, they are my things. I only got into art because I was it sounds really, really ridiculous, but I was a bit of a when I say a bit of a collector, I'm not exactly having my own wing at the Tate, but I love art and I've collected it over many years. Yeah. And I ran out of room in my house and I couldn't stop buying art. I mean, not particularly expensive, but I love art.
Yeah.
So an artist friend of mine from Mallorca said, and this is the way to get me to do anything, flattered me by saying, I think we're all the same.
Yeah.
Flattered me by saying, you've got such a good eye. So I was like, oh, have I?
Well.
As I bought another one of his paintings. Saw me coming. You should. It's just like my brother. It wasn't my brother. He's not an artist. That's just like my brother. All these people come up with ideas for me. You should run a gallery. You could be a gallerist, which is a thing.
Yeah.
I made up. So I thought, God, that's a darn good idea. Doing everything I love, but doing it for other people. Again, that's sort of slightly helping, educating, guiding people who haven't got a clue, and why should they? But everybody knows what they like when they see it.
Yes.
It's not rocket science. I like that. Good. Why? I don't know. I just like it.
Yeah. It's a feeling, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think that's what's really important about art. God, I'm going way off piste here. But to me, everyone always says, what is art? Well, first of all, I think it has to be created by a person. It can be music, it could be drama, it could be painting, it could be sculpture, it could be anything, it could be felting. But it's got to be created by a person in my mind, and I'm sure there are people out there who'll disagree. But it has to also bring some sort of emotional reaction in you.
Yes.
And that's what I've sort of worked out for me. And it can be a positive reaction. It can actually be quite a dark, scary reaction. Not all art makes you go warm and fuzzy.
No, that's very true.
It can make you very sad. It can make you very angry. It can disgust you, but it's causing a reaction, an emotion. And to me, that's what art is. And I can't remember where I was going with this now. But yes, I started doing finding paintings and sculpture for clients. to fit in, because it's just like mortgage broking, to fit in with their lifestyle, their budget, their needs, their house, the way they live. Are they big open plan, orangery with kitchen, with dining area onto a beautiful terrace and a garden, loads of light and loads of glass, fantastic? Or are they in a very old, dark, panelled, quite gothic, quite serious, sensible house? So you've got to think about their lifestyles, and also what do they want that art to say about them, which is a whole different podcast.
But all I keep thinking as well when I'm listening to you is how much it aligns with finding a home, because
it does.
That's a feeling. Yes, obviously, yes, you tick box. I want a driveway. I want this. I want that. But ultimately, you buy a house, unless it's an investment, based on a feeling.
It's gut, isn't it? You walk in, this is the house, this is it. Yeah. It's got the right feel.
Yeah, often don't even tick all the boxes. And you just exactly. Go, I just love it. It can be what I want it to be. Yeah,
and your wish list or your shopping list goes out the window because that's the house for you.
And that's really all I could think. When I heard you talking about art, I thought, well, this is actually really aligned with that world, with your experience, with the experience. It's so amazing to see. And I think for people listening as well, it just shows you that. And I think this is where the magic comes here, because to be a great broker, I just think that comes down to a person. It can be, it's not everyone can make it, and I truly believe that, sadly. Once upon a time, I didn't. Once upon a time, I thought anybody could be a broker. But it does show you that you don't need to come from a specific background for it to work. That's almost a feeling too. And almost an undefinable thing until you start doing it. You're not going to know really what it's like. And whether you'll do it. I mean, I can categorically say you are a fantastic broker, and your reviews speak for themselves. And I think what today gives people is a real window into you, a real flavour of who Sally is, that's beyond the posts and the pictures. It's really hard unless you hear someone to really get underneath their skin, to really get it. And I feel like we've really demonstrated that today between us in this episode. And I think people really love it. It's not
over, is it?
It is. We have been talking for an hour.
No.
I know you'll hate this, Sally, but I'm going to get you back, because I think talking about these topics with you is just great. And I think people will love it. Feedback to us, please, if you're listening and thinking, I did love it. I loved it.
Yeah, she talks too much.
Let us know. No, they won't. That's the whole point of a podcast. You're meant to talk. You're allowed to talk. I loved it. And I think you've come up with some great points for people with their spending plans, with their budgeting. That's just one aspect of a mortgage. You have to look at affordability, as people know, but obviously this does now come into it. So, wow, nearly choked on my own air. What we're going to do is pop in the show notes a link to the budget planner if we can. If not, we'll put an email address so people can get it. How do people reach you, Sally? We'll put your social media links in.
Yep, it's all there. I have a YouTube channel as well. If you just put in Sally's View, you'll get all the videos. www.sallysview.co.uk and sallythemortgagemum.co.uk.
Fabulous.
And that will go straight to my special page on the Mortgage Mum website.
Can't wait.
Which won't give you any flavour of what I've just spoken about at all.
No, but I think we will work on that. I think that's definitely a work in progress to get the website reflecting everyone more. And this is the start, because your podcast can go on there. Thank you, Sally, so much.
Thank you. Great.
Before you go, the last question I want to ask you, and I ask all our guests, is what is the biggest, and this is a hard question and very deep and meaningful, what is the biggest lesson you've learned in your life so far that you can share with our listeners?
Oh my God, that there's no such thing as black and white. It's all shades of grey. And I'm not talking about the book. Just thought I'd better caveat that.
That is the most classic Sally ending to this podcast ever. We couldn't have wrote that better.
It's not the book.
That it's 50 Shades of grey.
That's really not. That's what I've learned. 50 Shades. No, I'll start again.
Start again.
There's no such thing as black and white. It's all just shades of grey without any smiling. Yeah, whatever you think is black and white, whatever you think is true, whatever you think is immovable, it's not. It's
I love that.
Constantly shifting, and you have to bend with it.
You do. And you're very good at that.
You have to adapt.
Remind me of that. With a laugh, if you can. With a bit of laughter and fun.
It's essential.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Sally, so much. I'm pretty sure you'll have helped people have a little giggle today as well. As
I hope so. That is my MO.
Yeah. No, it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mortgage Mum podcast, and I hope you learnt something new today and felt inspired in some way. Here at the Mortgage Mum, we really believe in people supporting people. So if you've enjoyed this episode of the Mortgage Mum podcast, please share and subscribe and rate and review this podcast, and let's keep supporting each other. And of course, if you would like help with your mortgage or your insurance, head over to www.themortgagemum.co.uk or contact any one of the team on social media. We would love to help you. Thank you for listening.